The biggest scam that took place this weekend was Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic for the world heavyweight title. Hey guys, welcome to the Monday after. We had a huge fight weekend. We're going to be talking about Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul and how everyone is pissed off about that, calling it a scam. We're going to be talking about Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic at UFC 309 and the fact that Jon Jones still hasn't committed to fighting the number one contender for the UFC heavyweight title, which is Tom Aspinall, who happens to be the interim champion at the moment, as well as going over the RWS middleweight title fight between Joe Ryan and Mitch Morat this past weekend. So with that said, let's get right into it. So first things first, a bunch of people, seems like a majority of people are pissed off at Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. They're calling it a scam. They're calling it the heist of the century, et cetera, et cetera. Look, the truth is you can't call it a heist. You can't call it a scam because you didn't have to pay for that. Most people, a majority of people already subscribe to Netflix and they got to watch that fight. We're not talking about something where they paid $49.99 for a pay-per-view, $99.99, whatever, something like that. They got to see a fight that was included with a service that most people already subscribe for. And worst case scenario, say you subscribe to Netflix for this. You paid what? Anywhere from $7.99 to $20, and you got to see a live sporting event, and then you're still going to get access to the library. So for people to say this is a scam, it's not a scam, it's not a heist. People are just pissed off because they don't like the result of it. A lot of people with this bout, I think, let their hate for Jake Paul beat out their logic. Mike Tyson is a 58-year-old man. He qualifies, at least in the United States, for early retirement at this point. He was coming off of a medical condition that postponed the fight almost 6 months. Why in their right mind would anyone think that Mike Tyson is going to defeat 27-year-old Jake Paul, who's been actively fighting for the last 4 years? He might not be fighting the best boxers in the world, but he's fighting fighters. Tyrone Woodley is a fighter. Anderson Silva is a fighter. Tommy Fury is a fighter. He's fighting fighters. And he's proven that he has KO power. Yes, again, it's not against the best boxers in the world, but he's active and he's out there fighting. Mike Tyson has not been doing that. His last fight was that exhibition bout with Roy Jones Jr., which was just that, an exhibition bout. And that was about 4 years ago. So in the last 4 years, Jake Paul has about 10 times the amount of ring time that Mike Tyson has. And yes, Mike Tyson was a beast back in the day. And I feel like that's what people were expecting to show up to this fight. They were expecting Mike Tyson from 1990 to show up into the ring. And that's not what you got. Like I said, a lot of people let their dislike of Jake Paul cloud their judgment on this. I talked to some people who are very, very knowledgeable in boxing. And when they told me they thought Mike Tyson was going to win, I was shocked. I mean, I was like, you guys are clearly thinking with your heart, not with your head on this scenario. People are like, oh, look at the training clips. He was so fast, blah, 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 blah. Look, man, those are training clips. You see them all the time on the internet. You make guys on the pads look, people make guys on the pads look amazing. Then they get into the fight and they don't look anything like that. Mike's just old. It's not a knock on Mike. Mike said at the end, that it was a win for him because he, came back from the issues, the complications he had, and he was able to go 8 rounds. Yeah, that's a win for him. For people to think that old Mike Tyson was going to show up is just crazy. And yeah, Jake Paul carried him through that fight. There was no Reagan for Mike Tyson not to beat Jake Paul. People talking about, oh, the contract. No one's seen that damn contract. They're just making stuff up. Fact is, you got a younger, active fighter, and Jake Paul might not be a world-class boxer according to most, but the fact is that he is an active fighter. And you have Mike Tyson, who's 58 years old. Jake Paul's living the boxing. That is his priority. Mike Tyson is not. That was the big difference. So for people to call it a scam, it's entertainment. It was entertaining at the end of the day. The hype when Mike Tyson slapped the shit out of Jake Paul, all entertainment. Again, you did not have to pay $50 for a pay-per-view. It came with your Netflix subscription. And even if you had to get a Netflix subscription to watch this, for the price that you had to pay for that subscription, it was well worth it. It was entertainment. Not to mention there was great fights on the undercard. Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. Fantastic fight. Like that fight alone was worth the $7 to $20 you pay for Netflix on a monthly subscription. That fight was fantastic. Amanda Serrano, I thought, won the fight. That's a whole different, story. But again, no one got ripped off. For people to say this was a heist of the century, this was a ripoff, that's ridiculous. Now, as far as Jake Paul goes, who's next? I mean, look, at the end of the day, you might not like Jake Paul. Fact is, everyone's going to watch until Jake Paul basically gets knocked out. He is going to. He's businessman. He's not here to entertain. I mean, he's here to entertain, but he's approaching it with a business mindset. He's not going to risk, people are like, oh, fight a real boxer. Unless it's going to sell, but unless it's going to make him money, whether it is pay-per-view or something like a Netflix deal, he's not going to take it, because the minute he gets knocked out, he is done. Like, his influx of cash through the boxing world decreases substantially, right? When he lost to Tommy Fury, he knocked Tommy Fury down. He lost a close fight, and that allows him to continue to make money because he can come back and say, no, that's BS, whatever. If Tommy Fury had knocked him out, it would have been done. Jake Paul, the draw would have been done. If Mike Tyson would have knocked him out, it would have been done. So he has one loss on record, but he hasn't been knocked out. That's what everyone wants to see, because everyone loves to hate him. And rightfully so, people can hate the guy. He is somewhat annoying at times, but he's giving other guys a platform to fight on, at least, right? He's got, an undercard full of fighters. As far as the pay goes, I am not 100% sure what everyone's getting paid on that undercard, but he's given them the opportunity to be on that undercard. When they're doing the media days, right, it's not just Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. There's a good amount of other fighters that were on that card on there who are getting an opportunity to shine a little bit more. Something you don't see too often actually in boxing. Typically just the main event, sometimes a co-main event when it's pressers. They had everyone there on that media day. So I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not a fan of Jake per se, like his personality and stuff, but if, he's giving other people a chance to kind of take a little bit of his shine. Some of the call-outs he makes are ridiculous, but until someone beats him, he's going to be able to do that. So when that's going to happen, I don't know at this point. I don't think he's going to be taking too many gambles. I almost feel like he calls out Canelo. If Canelo were to call him tomorrow and say, I'll give you the shot, I'm actually curious if Jake Paul will take it. Because even if Canelo were to say, look, let's do this, split it right down the middle, 50-50, right? We'll do a pay-per-view. I'd be surprised. I'd be curious to see if Jake Paul takes it, because once he loses that fight, because there's no way in hell would think that he can beat Canelo right now. His aura's over. Not his aura, but his, the people wanted to tune in to see him get knocked out, because that's really why people are watching. They want to see Jake Paul get knocked out. That's why they had these false hopes Mike Tyson was going to knock him out. That's all over. So again, everyone, it wasn't a scam. You didn't get scammed out of anything. If you thought that fight was going to go any different way than what it did, you were living in La La Land. You had false hopes of what was going to happen. Mike Tyson is 58 years old. He went out there. Kudos to him for going out there and doing what he did at 58. Like, you got to think about that. Yeah, that's Iron Mike who you saw growing up, but he's still 58-year-old. And Jake Paul, you know what? Respect to him, because he could have. I felt that he was holding back. He said he was holding back, but even when I was watching the fight, I was like, why isn't he as poured on? He could have tried to knock Mike out, and he didn't. I think if he wouldn't have said that, I think if he would have just gone out and fought actually and not said that, I think people would have pissed people off, but maybe people wouldn't have felt so cheated, I guess, because when the fighter holds back, you're like, well, then what's the point of fighting if you're not going to actually fight, right? So maybe that's what has people pissed off. The fact that he admitted that. I don't know, but no way did anybody get scammed. Again, out of this. This wasn't a heist. This wasn't a scam. It was entertainment. People just didn't like what happened and the result, and the fact that Mike Tyson didn't go out there and knock Jake Paul's head off. That's really all that happened. The other big fight this weekend that had the combat sports world buzzing was Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic at UFC 309 for the heavyweight title. And I don't think it was actually the fight that had people buzzing. It was the fact that Jon Jones was fighting Stipe Miocic when he should have been fighting Tom Aspinall. And it's insane to me that the UFC basically is letting Jon Jones run the show. Like, it's crazy because you've seen Dana White throw people under the bus for not wanting to fight certain people before. But Jon Jones will say, oh, you can make fun of me all you want. I'm going to go home with all my money. That's true. You're going to go home with all your money. But at the end of the day, you're still, everything that you're doing makes it seem like you're ducking Tom Aspinall. I mean, you basically flat out said it. Oh, it doesn't do anything for me. And he's the interim champion. It's insane that we got to the point where there's an interim champion and there's a heavyweight champion, and they're not forced to fight one another. That is crazy to me. The fact that And you look, Jon Jones is not a likable person. He makes it very hard for people to root for him. And it's like almost like he doubled down this weekend on that, or this past week on that. It's very I almost feel like he's got to be trolling us at this point with everything that's going, everything that he does. He's got to be trolling us. Look, he requested that fight with Stipe. Stipe was basically retired. Like the UFC had no plans of bringing him back. And because Jon wants to fight, they bring him back essentially out of semi-retirement. And he looked bad in there. He looked slow. He looked just as fucking slow as Mike Tyson. Like realistically, he didn't look anything like the Stipe Miocic that everyone was used to seeing, who was the heavyweight champ. He looked slow. Jon, won. He had this amazing spinning back kick, which was spectacular, by the way. But it's not like I mean, for you to someone say, "Oh my God, Jon Jones," like he fought a slow Stipe Miocic. I'd be like saying Jake Paul looked phenomenal against Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was slow. Guess what? Stipe Miocic was slow. Jon Jones essentially just had to pick him apart, and he did that. And then he ended up hitting him with that spinning back kick at the end of the fight. That to me is what's crazy to me is the fact that it seems like everyone just overlooking that fact. I mean, they're buying the UFC, what the UFC's feeding them in that sense. The UFC is not forcing Jon Jones to basically do anything. I'm like, what kind of crap, what kind of dirt does Jon Jones have on that they just don't force this guy to do anything, that they're just letting him basically call the shots? It's crazy, and it's wild to me how like the disrespect to Tom Aspinall. First off, it was kind of messed up beforehand, like the disrespect Stipe was getting, because like there was no one was talking about Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. Everyone was talking about Jon Jones ducking Tom Aspinall this whole past week. And I was hoping Stipe would have pulled through and kind of get that win, just shock the world, upset everybody. But as soon as he came out in that fight and I saw how he was moving, I was like, this is not happening. He looked slow. He was like plodding, and it was just bad. And like Tom Aspinall's just getting screwed over. Look, Jon Jones wins the fight. When Topuria knocked out Max Holloway, they let Volkanovski into the ring. And why didn't Tom get the same courtesy, right? He is the interim heavyweight champion. There should be no debate of who's next. And then Jon Jones basically goes on the mic. Joe Rogan asks him about it, and then he starts, praising Jesus, which nothing against that. That's your thing. But he basically used that, like he's using it as a ploy to sidestep the actual question that he was asked. And then he flat out comes out and says, well, I'm going to have to go back and renegotiate with Dana White and everybody. And then in the post-fight press conference, basically says, I want FU money. He does not want to fight Tom Aspinall. He's basically said he's just going to vacate that belt. It seems if he's forced to fight Tom Aspinall, he has no problem doing that. Like, it's just freaking insane, like, to me, like that this is what we're living in, and the UFC seems to be okay with that. That's the craziest part. The one thing that I also think is kind of BS is it seems like the UFC is going out of their way to protect Jon Jones, and Tom Aspinall, he's not a like shit talker. All the hoopla around everything is based off of Jon Jones, how he's reacting. Like Tom Aspinall has called him out very politely, and Jones has gone out of his way to call him an asshole because of all this. And it's not Tom's listening to the UFC. Like Tom is not doing anything, like the UFC did not let him into the cage. But like Tom, like I wish Tom would just be like, screw this, I'm going rogue. And he storms the cage, kind of like he's too nice. He's too nice and respectful. And it's not a knock against him. But when someone is blatantly disrespecting you in the way that Jon Jones is potentially ducking you, like it's wild, like there's a video of Tom Aspinall in the arena, and he's listening to the post-fight press conference, and you could see he's just like flabbergasted when Jon Jones started doing the little Jesus bit to avoid answering the Tom Aspinall question.
That was a curveball. He went Jesus Christ instead of me.
I would have loved for Tom to be like, screw that, move out of my way, I'm heading to the cage, and not let him have that stupid moment where he's like, like I'm just having a good time, like Tom needs to stop. Like this is where, I don't think he's going to do it because Tom is too much of a professional and too nice of a guy. But man, at some point he's got to stop being the nice guy, and he's got to be like, nah, screw you, Jon Jones. You're giving this to me, and let Jon Jones run. But don't just, again, this is just what I want as a fan. I want him to put that pressure on Jon Jones. I want him to put the pressure on the UFC. Quit letting them get away with it because the man is getting screwed. To me, honestly, the biggest scam that took place this weekend was Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic for the world heavyweight title, the UFC world heavyweight title. That fight should not have happened. That was ridiculous. This weekend should have been Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones. And that's it, plain and simple. And the reason that's a scam is because Stipe Miocic was not the number one contender. The guy got knocked out by Francis. He hadn't fought in 4 years. And all of a sudden now he's getting a title shot when you have a very capable, more than willing interim champion. It's bonkers. It is freaking bonkers, the fact that this is what's going on right now. I like Dana White, like, why? That's my question. Why, Dana? Why are you letting Jon Jones basically dictate and call the shots in your promotion? You don't let anyone else do it. Why him? That's the real question that I have, because you know what's going to happen. They're going to go into negotiate. He's going to ask for some ridiculous amount of money. He's going to ask for what Dana White claims Francis Ngannou asked for, and they're going to say no, and then the fight's just never going to happen. And it's going to be BS, which Jon Jones saying, oh, well, I don't want to tarnish my legacy. Like, legacies are built on fighting the best fighters. You did not do that this past weekend. And the fact that, look, it'd be almost more acceptable if he did what he's doing, but didn't make it so public, like trying to discredit Tom Aspinall, saying he has no, he said, oh, that's just like an Ovince St. Preux or a Dominic Reyes. Like, those guys weren't interim heavyweight champions when you fought them. This is the interim heavyweight champion right now. You should be fighting him. It's BS. Tom Aspinall is getting screwed at the end of the day. If we don't get that fight, it's BS. It's crazy that the UFC is even allowing this to happen. And I really hope Jon Jones is just trolling everybody because he likes to see everyone pissed, everyone complain about him, and he really has the intentions of fighting. I hope that's the case. Because kudos to him. I mean, I swear he has to be trolling us, Like, you remember when DC and Jon Jones had that little exchange in the back, behind the microphones when they thought the cameras were off, and he's like, basically, hey, pussy, you still there? Like, listen to him talking there, and then listen to how he tries to talk in his post-interview that was in the ring, how he tried to talk at the post. He tries to talk almost like he's a child, and he's just having fun. Like, his voice, the tone of his voice changes and all that kind of stuff. It's ridiculous. Like, he's either trolling or he really thinks everybody is an idiot, and he's just gonna continue with this little ploy. I don't know. But again, to me, that was a scam of the weekend right there. Stipe Miocic should not have been in there with Jon Jones. Jon Jones should not have been allowed to say that's who he wants to fight and basically force Stipe out of like the semi-retirement was in. That should have been Tom Aspinall in there, Jon Jones for the undisputed heavyweight title. And it's kind of crazy because at the intro, Bruce Buffer introduced Jon Jones as the undisputed heavyweight champion when he's not. He's not the undisputed heavyweight champion. There is Jon Jones and there is Tom Aspinall. There is no undisputed right now. So that was freaking crazy to me. And the other big fight that took place this weekend that you were probably only aware about if you like Muay Thai was Joe Ryan versus Morat for the RWS middleweight title. Fantastic fight. If you haven't seen that fight, you need to go watch it. I will link it in the description. RWS uploaded the video to YouTube already. It is a spectacular fight. It was a better fight than Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. It was a better fight than Stipe Miocic versus Jon Jones. This is what a championship fight should be. It was competitive from start to finish. It was a very close fight. Joe Ryan, that kid is the real deal. Like that kid is the future of Muay Thai for Westerners. All right. 20 years old, out of the UK, Liverpool. He was a champion going in, fighting Morat, super experienced fighter, formerly from Pichindi. And they went down to the wire. It was a very close fight. And I personally I would have given the nod to Joe Ryan. With scoring in Thailand, it's a little bit different. I thought Joe Ryan took the second, third, and fifth rounds, which is, when I watch Muay Thai fights, I feel freaking crazy sometimes because, like, for example, the fourth round, I thought Joe Ryan lost, but the judges gave that to Joe Ryan. So Muay Thai is different with the way that they score it. And to me, that's one of the biggest issues, I think, with that sport becoming more popular. Because there's already the issues with MMA and boxing and the scoring. I feel like if you were to show a Muay Thai fight to a Western audience or, people outside of Thailand, they would go bonkers over how it's scored. And I think that potentially one of the things that hurts it from becoming more popular. You watch a fight and you're like, well, this guy won, but then there's all these subs of rules on how it's scored, and it makes it very, very difficult to keep up with it, I guess, is the best way to put it. But I'm not mad at the decision. I mean, Morat, phenomenal job. I think it was a very, very close fight. If Joe Ryan would have gotten the nod, I don't think anyone could be mad because it was that close of a fight. I just personally thought Joe Ryan won that fight. I gave him 2, 3, and 5. Morat looked good as well, looked phenomenal. The guy's a veteran. He's fought a list of names. Joe Ryan lost, but he didn't really lose. It's one of those situations where you lose a fight, but for anyone to look at that and say, man, that kid's not special, it would be insane. That kid is special, and I personally, I don't think I've seen a guy myself where I'm like, he has something different about him. A lot of times you see guys that go in there and they just try to play the game, especially against the Thai fighters. They try to play go tit for tat. And I think that's always a bad move because you're not going to beat him at that, right? The Thai fighters are always going to do a lot better. And Joe went in there. He was playing the game, but he wasn't just trying to go, he wasn't happy just going kick for kick or whatever. He was trying to enforce his will. He was trying to enforce his fight onto Morat. And I love that because a lot of times guys are happy to be in there with top ties, and it almost seems like them getting in the ring is the win. And you could tell Joe Ryan wasn't there to just be in the ring. He was there to defend his title, and he fought phenomenally, in my opinion. Morat, phenomenal as well. Again, very close fight. I just recommend you go watch it so you can formulate, your own opinion on who you think won. I don't think it was a bad decision. It's just not the decision I would have gone with. Great fight. Really, at the end of the day, that was just a great fight. I think if you love Muay Thai, you got to watch it. If you just want to watch a good fight, you have to watch that fight. Phenomenal job. Joe Ryan, guy to keep an eye on for sure. When you watch RWS, you see a lot of these guys from around the world come in and fight, and they're fighting against Thais. I mean, when you're watching any show like LWC Super Champ, Rajadamma Knockout, Thai Fight, right? You see these guys that are not from Thailand going in there and fighting. And Joe Ryan right now is one of the few, not very, very few guys where I'm thinking, if this guy has the potential to make a statement like a Liam Harrison, like a John Wayne Parr, like a Kevin Ross, where they were able to hang with the best. And I think Joe Ryan has the potential to cement themselves potentially out of that group as the best when it's all said and done. I mean, 20 years old, a lot of room to grow. The kid is different. The kid's special. If 5-10 years from now, we're not looking back and saying, that's a guy who made a difference for the sport from the perspective of, people outside of Thailand. Like I said, like the Liam Harrisons have, like the John Wayne Parrs, like the Kevin Rosses have. If he's not one of those, I'd be shocked. For anyone that doesn't believe Joe Ryan is the future, I mean, it's kind of crazy because if you don't think that, I don't know, you're smoking the wacky tobacco or something. I mean, the kid, WBC Muay Thai champion, was obviously up until this weekend, RWS middleweight champion, WMO champion. One of the bigger things is he's an IFMA champion. At 14, 15 years old, he won the gold medal in the IFMAs, in the world IFMAs. And he's won, I think, European IFMA medal at 16 or 17. I mean, the kid's the real deal. It's not someone who just said, oh, I'm going to take up Muay Thai, and he just happened to be very good at it. I mean, he's been putting in the work for a long, long time. So, again, that kid is going to be the future of the sport, especially for people outside of Thailand. It's someone to keep an eye on, honestly. Just go watch the fight. The link's going to be in the bio. There you guys have it. That was a fight action for this weekend. We're going to be doing this more often. We're going to be covering, big fights and Muay Thai action on Mondays after the fight action from the weekend. Appreciate you guys watching. Obviously, this was a big weekend. There was Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. There was UFC 309, and there was obviously the big RWS middleweight title fight between Joe Ryan and Morat. But like I said, we're going to be doing it more often. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate you guys smash a like on the button. And if you subscribe to the channel, until next time, I'm Nathan from Muay Thai Authority.